Japan elected a new prime minister who is a non-traditional politician, relatively popular among voters, and who consistently calls up corruption and his own party's faults. But the prime minister is already under immense pressure. So in this video, we'll review 2 reasons why the new prime minister is already struggling despite the fact he just won presidency. But first, we'll need to quickly review the ruling party's inter-party elections in order to understand newly elected Prime Minister Ishiba's situation. After former Prime Minister Kishida announced that he will step down in August, on September 27th, the Liberal Democratic Party held their inter-party presidential election. A total of 9 candidates ran for presidency, which is unconventional because factions usually gather around a candidate, which results in a 2 to 3 person race. However, most LDP factions were dissolved earlier this year due to the ruling party slush fund scandal and public backlash. Although there were 9 candidates, there were 3 main contestants: Koizumi, Ishiba, and Takaichi. While the LDP is generally a moderate conservative party, the party is a catch-all party in the sense that there is a spectrum of liberal to conservative members in this political party. Koizumi and Ishiba are on the moderate liberal side, while Takaichi, the spiritual successor of former Prime Minister Abe, is on the conservative side. At the beginning of the race, Koizumi had the greater edge over Ishiba. However, as the candidates started to debate one another, Ishiba became the most popular candidate among citizens. Japan's ruling party select their president with a 2-round voting system, which basically allows a second round of votes if no one gets the majority in the first round. Here are the results of the first vote. As you can see, Takaichi got the most party votes and the second highest lawmaker vote. Koizumi got the highest lawmaker vote, which isn't surprising given that former Prime Minister Suga openly supported his bid. Takaichi's party vote surprised everyone because she had 109 votes, whereas Ishiba got 108. Sure, it's only a vote difference, but the fact that Ishiba, a politician with strong national support, didn't get first place gave hope to the conservatives. Because no one got a majority, the race had a second round between Ishiba and Takaichi. This time, Ishiba won with 215 votes and Takaichi lost with 194. The vote was still close nonetheless, as Ishiba got 189 lawmaker votes, whereas Takaichi received 173 lawmaker votes, which is only a 16-vote difference. There's 5 reasons why Ishiba won the presidential election. Number 1. The LDP banned the use of phones during the election in order to guarantee an election free of influence and pressure from other politicians. Number 2. Out of Takaichi's 20 recommendations, 13 lawmakers were recipients of the slush funds. Number 3. Takaichi's conservative views alienates a good number of LDP politicians. She openly claimed that she will keep on visiting Yasukuni Shrine, which enshrines World War II Class A war criminals. This is something Japanese prime ministers avoid during their premiership as it deteriorates relations with South Korea and China. Number 4. Former Prime Ministers Suga and Kishida. Because Suga and Kishida are more liberal-leaning, it's likely that they told their group of politicians to vote for a liberal candidate prior to the elections. Although factions are officially disbanded, these 2 politicians still have a sizable influence within the party. And number 5, Ishiba's final appeal influenced voters. Before the second round of votes, each candidate received 5 minutes to deliver a final speech. Takaichi's final speech focused on economic and foreign policy, and she emphasized protecting Japan. On the other hand, Ishiba apologized for his previous actions towards fellow LDP members and claimed that he will make sure all of his peers wins a seat in the coming election. He called for the LDP to put their differences aside, reform the party, and regain trust of citizens. If you're wondering why Ishiba apologized, it's because many people within the party distrust and hate him. And in order to understand why his fellow lawmakers distrust him, we'll need to understand Shigeru Ishiba's background, because Ishiba is known as the Tōnai Yato, or the opposition party within the party. Shigeru Ishiba's father was former governor of Tottori Prefecture, but Ishiba had no intention of entering politics. Ishiba himself started off working at a bank, but after his father passed away, Kakue Tanaka, former prime minister and the ruling party's mastermind of the 1980s, personally encouraged Ishiba to run as a politician. After being elected as the youngest lower house lawmaker in 1986, the LDP struggled with money and corruption scandals such as the recruit incident in the Sagawa Kyubin case. This encourages Ishiba to leave the LDP in 1993 to join newly established opposition party, the Shinseito, and defeat the LDP in the 1993 lower house election. The Shinseito doesn't exist anymore, but members of this party will create the Democratic Party of Japan, which changed its name to the Constitutional Democratic Party. That's a story for another time. Long story short, Ishiba returns to the party in 1997 and quickly gains experience under Prime Minister Koizumi. Ishiba's turn against the LDP doesn't end here. During Taro Asuo's premiership, Ishiba joined the anti-Asuo group and pressured Asuo to resign as prime minister. Taro Asuo's departure led to the LDP losing the parliamentary election to the Democratic Party of Japan in 2009. Despite betraying Prime Minister Asuo, when the LDP gains control of the House in 2012, Abe invited Ishiba to his cabinet. And this is where Ishiba further deteriorates his relations with the party. In 2015, he creates his own faction, and in 2016, he rejects Abe's offer to remain in Abe's cabinet. When the LDP held the presidential election in 2018, Ishiba was the only one who challenged Abe's presidency. He campaigned using the words shojiki and kosei, which means honesty and fairness. This is in response to Abe's Moritomo and Kakesuko scandals. Ishiba garners 45% of the lawmaker vote, but this really puts an end to his position within the LDP. In the 2020 presidential election, he was nowhere near the other two candidates, and Ishiba dissolved his faction in 2021. It seemed like he was finished with his political ambition, but the LDP's ongoing slush fund scandal and dissolvement of factions gave him a real chance to win, and the rest is history. Although LDP politicians may label his entire political career as a one of betrayal, Ishiba would probably reflect that his journey is a one that has been faithful to his core values. A politician who pursues justice and speaks the truth. This partly explains Ishiba's popularity among citizens, despite being criticized by his fellow lawmakers, especially the conservative group surrounding Abe. However, such image of justice and truth is nowhere to be seen since being elected as president of the LDP. So let's return to the inner-party politics because the LDP's current situation is limiting the new prime minister. As mentioned earlier, Ishiba won with a slight majority against the conservative bloc of the LDP. Nearly half of the lawmakers supported Takaichi. It was reported that when Ishiba approached Takaichi to appoint her as the LDP's chairperson of the General Council, she declined his offer. As a matter of fact, she claimed that she had no intention to join the cabinet if requested. Takayuki Kobayashi, another conservative candidate who got 5th place in the presidential race, also declined to take any administrative role. Not only do many disapprove of Ishiba because of his previous betrayals, but they also disapprove of his political proposals. For example, during his campaign period, he argued that there should be a third-party organization that checks the use of political funds. He proposed revising the US-Japan Status of Force Agreement, claiming that the relationship is imbalanced. And he also argued that Japan should establish a communication office in Pyongyang, North Korea, to resolve the unresolved abduction issues. It will be difficult for him to persecute the slush fund lawmakers as there are 50-ish lawmakers. They're also mainly from the Abe faction. His desire to renegotiate the Status of Force Agreement could endanger relations with America, which the LDP wants to avoid, and establishing a communication office in North Korea may not solve the abduction issue. With a divided party in opposition against his proposals, it makes sense that Ishiba is trying to appease his fellow lawmakers. During his first policy speech on October 4th, he didn't mention his foreign policy and possible investigations in the slush fund scandal. Instead, he talked about increasing the national average income and establishing the Disaster Management Agency. This may have been a good move to address the pressure from within the party, but responding to internal dissent means he'll need to ignore external pressure or the concerns of the citizens. In another move to satisfy his fellow party members, Ishiba made the untraditional move to call for a snap election before being officially voted in as prime minister. This contradicts what he said on September 14th about not doing an early snap election. Ishiba's original plan was to debate with the opposition party during the budget committee, but now with a snap election, the budget committee will not convene. Parliament was dissolved on October 9th, and the lower house elections will take place on October 27th. Opposition parties were quick to criticize him for flip-flopping. While Ishiba claimed that his cabinet would be a cabinet based on understanding and empathy, 11 of his cabinet members had relations with the Unification Church. It was also leaked on October 3rd that Ishiba was moving towards endorsing slush fund politicians for the next election. This explains why his approval rating is at 50.7%, which is the second lowest approval rating for a newly elected prime minister since 2006. All of the new prime minister's problems can be summarized by what Ishiba said during his courtesy visit with the opposition party members. When encouraged to show his Ishiba color or stay true to his political beliefs, he responded by saying, "If I show my color, the public will be happy, but the party will be angry." In order for him to truly follow through with his policies or his color, he'll need to change the party dynamics or make bold moves to show the public that he is the candidate of change. And we may already see him flip-flopping once again. Despite early reports suggesting the LDP's support for slush fund politicians, on October 6, Ishiba announced that the party will not endorse at least 6 former Abe faction executives. Furthermore, Ishiba announced that all politicians who had a certain amount of slush funds will not get the ability to hire fukkatsu, which means proportional election revival. Most of these politicians are from the Abe faction. You can further learn about the hire fukkatsu in this video, but basically, it's a legal way for politicians to get elected into office regardless of losing an election in the district. All of this could either work to his advantage or backfire. If these lawmakers fail in the next election, Ishiba may find himself with fewer constraints, but if they succeed, his position could be further tested. While the LDP claims to have resolved the slush fund scandal, the public remains unconvinced due to the party's underwhelming response. So check out this video to learn how the LDP attempted to end their scandal.